Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Storm, and concluding the little mini trilogy that they did for Brotherhood, Final Fantasy 15, episode 4 focuses on Noctis and his relationship with Ignis. Uh, like the other two episodes, the beginning of this episode starts with the four of them in the present, heading on to, I assume, Altissia or Kaum. In episode 2, they're heading towards Kaum, but I think as a whole, they're heading towards the city of Altissia. But anyway, they're on the road driving. Ignis is driving, and Prompto just complains that he's tired and wants to lie down somewhere. Ignis retorts that they're nowhere near the next city, which again I assume is KM that they're going to. They said that they were going to last time anyway. Uh, basically, Ignis, basically Prompto, Gladiolus, and Noctis uh, they all want to rest somewhere. They don't feel like camping anymore. And since they're all close enough to the last city, which actually, you know what? That might have been KM. I don't know. That actually might have been KM that they left. They headed back to the last city. They were close enough to it that they could spend the night there in a hotel one more day before leaving on. Uh, Ignis's excuse is that there shouldn't be run ragged. You know, they're on the road constantly. They need the wits about them. So one night's good sleep at a nice hotel, or as nice as it could be. It didn't look too run down, but it didn't look the nicest place. But it doesn't matter. They're just saying there for the night. They're gonna leave the next day. So anyway, they head back to the last city they were at. And immediately, of course, he was already sleeping in the car. But as soon as they get to the hotel, Noctis gets under the blankets and starts to go back to sleep until Prompto can convince him to go out to get something to eat. Uh, Ignis goes to do shopping for food for the day, and Gladiolus decides to stay back at the hotel. Now, while they were out, this kind of goes back to what I said this before that according to Tetsuya Nomura, and again, this is way back in Versus 13. This is way back in Versus 13. It probably isn't the case now, but that he commented that Prompto was a bad influence on Noctis, and that he's something of I think he said he was something of a womanizer too. I think, but if he is or was, it clearly does not show here because when Prompto and Noctis stepped out of the hotel to go find something to eat, kebabs, which is what Prompto was looking for, he saw a pretty young woman with some ice cream and tried to go up to her and ask her where she got it from. Then her friend came along and Prompto got a bit nervous about talking to them. So the first woman pointed him in the direction of the ice cream shop, and the two of them walked away. Prompto was sitting there still kind of choked up about how he just couldn't really spit any words out, and Noctis in the background a little, well, disappointed in his friend and how much he just kind of blew whatever chance he had, whatever little chance he had. I mean, if anything did happen, if anything could happen, well, it couldn't happen because they're only staying there for one night. They're about to leave the next day. They don't have time to lollygag around and play any games. So we cut to Ignis buying ingredients for something he's gonna cook up. Come back to the hotel. Uh, the hotel room is decked out with a mini kitchen, which is nice. Uh, Ignis gets to work on baking something, and when Gladiolus questions him on why he bakes so much, that's when we cut to the flashback. Younger Ignis in the kitchen, in the palace's kitchen, cooking up something for Noctis. Uh, Brings it to him in his penthouse. Dear God, Noctis is the worst, just absolutely the worst roommate you could ever have. When Ignis gets there, the entire fucking place is just. Christ, I'm a little untidy myself, but Noctis' place was run down. I mean, food everywhere, old cups of ramen everywhere, trash bags everywhere, his clothes everywhere. The entire place was just a fucking pigsty. And Noctis had absolutely no inclination to clean it up, which stuns the fuck out of me, honestly. I'm surprised as hell that he wouldn't do anything like that. That he wouldn't clean it up. That he would let it go to seed like that. I know it says a lot about Versus 13, but it has to be said since I still haven't played the fucking game yet, unfortunately. Tetsuya Nomura has said that Noctis doesn't really hold the kingdom's rules in high regard. I guess that's to say that he's a little more lackadaisical when it comes to his appearances as a prince. The way he will kind of blow off people who don't interest him. I mean, not to be rude, but kind of in this sort of, I kind of want out of the situation. These people, they're not really my friends, so I'm going to kind of exit this situation. How he, in a way, as a kid, structures his training, and kind of how now that, according to Ignis, the penthouse that he's been given is provisional. He only gets to keep it if he can prove to the king that he can take care of himself, that he can live by himself and cook for himself, which he can't. Not at all. Ignis came by during the evening, no, during the afternoon rather, saw the place in complete squalor, and had to clean up the entire apartment by himself. So Noctis comes by finally, sees the whole place is cleaned up. Amusingly, he was concerned about his comic books, which Ignis put up on a shelf for him, as well as a letter from Luna that he apparently has not read, or maybe he has read, but he hasn't written it back. While he's there, Ignis kind of, again, he chastises Noctis for not taking care of himself and letting the whole place go to seed. He cooks Noctis up a nice healthy meal, which Noctis, of course, does not want, but he has to have. After dinner, Ignis presents Noctis with a couple of desserts that he's been working on. According to Noct, when he talked to Prompto about this next day, he brought some of the desserts with him for breakfast. When he was younger, back in Tanabra, Noctis had a nice dessert that he thought was simply amazing. But ever since then, he can never figure it out. He doesn't remember, either he doesn't know or he doesn't remember what it's made out of. He told Ignis about it one day, and ever since then, Ignis has been trying to cook it for him ever since. Never quite getting it right, but always seemingly getting closer every single attempt. So anyway, after giving Noctis his dinner and his dessert, he stresses to him that he has to read the political report that he's brought with him. Again, this ongoing battle with Niflheim just does not seem to be ending anytime soon. And as the skirmishes continue, it's important that Noctis reads the political report that he's brought with him, so he's kept up to date on what's going on in the kingdom and its quarrel with Niflheim. But of course, Noctis, I'm gonna be honest. When I saw this episode for the first time, I was very much disappointed in Noctis. I mean, he seemingly is not taking this whole thing seriously. His duty as a prince, his duty to the kingdom, taking care of himself, his grades in school even. I don't know, I mean, I guess you say he's just being a teenager, but you think he would take things a little more seriously. You really would. That what he's doing, his role in the world is a big deal. I don't know, maybe at first, I guess at first it just wasn't it wasn't important to him, but yeah, as the episode continues, we kind of see that may or may not be the case. After giving Noctis after visiting Noctis, giving him his dinner and dessert in the battle report, and kind of reminding him to take all this seriously, take your role as prince seriously, take your grades seriously, read that battle report, so you can know what's going on. Next day after school, Noctis and Prompto are coming home, and there's a news report on one of the screens in the city. It shows the king uh, visiting, I guess, a garden or something, examining one of the trees. And Prompto's one who points out that he's walking around with a cane. And when he sees this, Noctis is absolutely floored by that. And compared to from episode 3 to episode 4, Regis is noticeably grayer. I mean, it has been some years since Noctis was 8 to maybe 18 by this point. Maybe it's been about 10 years since, which would be about right, I think. He is grayer. But part of that is due to the stress that maintaining the new wall does to him. After another meeting with his council, which with Ignis rather, was in attendance, writing down notes for another political report to give to Noctis. Afterwards, Ignis and Regis speak for a little bit about how things just don't seem to be progressing. The battle with Niflheim is ongoing. Nothing seems to be going right for anyone. And when Ignis asks him about the cane that he's walking around with now and how much stress the new wall is putting on him, Regis does openly admit that, yeah, the new wall, it is difficult to maintain the wall. And it's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain peace in the kingdom. Regis at this point has already resigned himself to the fact that he is going to die at some point soon. And that Noctis is going to have to be the one to replace him and continue maintaining the new wall, just as presumably his father and his father before him had done in their stead. I have no idea how long the new wall has been around. It's been around for at least maybe a couple of generations, I would assume. According to... Actually, it has to have been around for longer than that, because when Ignis comes back to Noctis' apartment, still cleaned, thankfully, when he comes back to Ignis' apartment, Noctis' apartment, he knows that the new wall has been around for about 150 years. 150 years of that thing going, and how many people have... Shit, because if it ages you prematurely, then how many generations... How many kings has that thing gone through? When I think about it. I was thinking maybe, like, Noctis' father, his grandfather, maybe his great-grandfather, maybe at least that long, but 150 years... Jesus. Well, I suppose it's better than the old wall, for the most part. But anyway, after seeing his father on screen on the news report, physically seeing the signs of not only aging, but also of his father becoming weaker and weaker, Noctis decides to blow some steam at the arcade. Prompto tags along with him. They went into Gladiolus, who looks very odd wearing sweatpants and then a sweatshirt. I mean, he does work out a lot, so I guess it's not that odd since he exercises a lot. But I guess on him it looks a little off. I think it's kind of occurring to me that Prompto has never met Gladiolus, probably, because since he does, I guess, spend most of his time at the Royal Palace, guarding the place, walking out and everything. But seeing Noctis not only skip class, or come home from class anyway, they were coming home from school, but skipping his training, rather, is what it was. Noctis has been skipping his training for quite a while. So Gladiolus drags him back to the palace and forces him to train. And in the middle of the training, you kind of see Noctis almost lose it a bit. It's becoming more and more apparent that having to become the king and succeed his father, that time is coming closer and closer, and it's real. The pressure of it all is starting to bear down on Noctis, especially after seeing his father physically, not in person, but actually seeing his father growing weaker and weaker for the first time and probably ever, honestly. And it was at that moment it all dawned on him that the time is coming. Sooner or later, he's going to have to assume the throne himself, and he's clearly not ready for that. So he's skipped his training. He's neglected reading the battle report, political report rather, about what's going on with Insomnia, well, Lucius rather, Lucius and Niflheim. He is slacking off in class, not taking care of himself at his apartment. When Ignis tries to drill it into him that, yeah, this is serious. You have to take all this serious. This isn't a game. Just because you're the prince doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. And the thing is that Noctis does know this. He knows he can't do just whatever he wants. He knows he has to take his studies seriously. He knows he has to take his training seriously. That he should read that political report. That he should write back to Luna. That he should be paying attention to everything that's going on around him. But it's the fact that the reality of being king is realer to him than ever before. And the prospect of watching his father die in front of him is far, far too much for him. And when he has his outburst at Ignis about everything, Ignis is just kind of fed up and just leaves. He sits in his car for a second and just kind of sulks for a moment because Ignis himself is worried about what's going on with Noctis in the kingdom. The king is dying, slowly but surely. Noctis isn't taking anything seriously. So Ignis is kind of at a loss for himself. So to blow off steam for himself, he goes to train, Ignis. He goes to train by himself a little bit. And after he's finished, he encounters, what do you know, Gladiolus. And after speaking with Gladiolus, it gets to Ignis too that Noctis is paying attention. You know, he does grasp the gravity of the situation in front of him. He does know what's going on. He knows things are important. That stuff is getting real for everyone. So that night, he decides to head back to Noctis' apartment to talk to him again. And when he gets there, he notices that there's a bunch of food and a very, very burnt pan in the sink. He also notices that the political report that he left for Noctis the last time around has been looked through. It's been Noctis took notes and marked a few pages and everything. So Noctis comes into the room after hearing Ignis come in. Yeah, it's in that moment, Ignis realizes that Gladiolus is right about Noctis, that he is paying attention to everything, that he is taking this seriously. And he kind of sees through the slacker persona that Noctis was kind of putting on before. Yeah, he does see that Noctis is worried about what's going on. He is taking this. This all is important to him after all, but it's a lot to take on all at once. That's really what it comes down to. So after realizing this, Noctis kind of turns to Ignis after a bit of quiet and offers up some food. Unfortunately, the only thing they have around to eat, since Ignis didn't bring anything, were a couple of cups of ramen that they cooked up. Which Ignis actually did enjoy. Every once in a while, you know, it's nice, like you said, to have something a little more casual. They kind of reach that understanding between each other. You know, despite what Noctis says and does, the way he acts, it is all important to him. He is paying attention. He is taking it all seriously. And despite the fact that Ignis seems a little stubborn, a little too serious about it himself, that he is worried. He wants what's best for Noctis and the kingdom itself. And because he works so closely with Noctis, basically being not only his counsel, not only his own like physical conscience, his own Jiminy Cricket that walks around talking to him. Kind of a manservant too, I thought. The way he cooks Noctis' meals for him, the way he cleans up his apartment and everything. I don't know. I thought that was, to me, that felt a little bit demeaning for Ignis. I'm sure Ignis is more than willing and happy to do anything he can to help out the kingdom and everything, but it just kind of seemed a little demeaning to me that he was basically Noctis's butler. Well, I mean, a black butler can make being a butler any cool, then I suppose Final Fantasy could do it too, especially with someone like Ignis. I don't know. But again, going back to what I've said before, there's that dynamic in the group where Prompto is the guy, is kind of, he is the sort of irreverent friend that Noctis needs that can maybe not keep him grounded exactly, but maybe cheer him up a bit, you know, kind of take the pressure off of him every once in a while. Gladiolus is the shield that protects the king. Gladiolus is always going to be there behind Noctis, pushing him forward when he needs it. And if Gladiolus is pushing Noctis forward when he needs it, then Ignis is there pulling him along. And that kind of sentiment, that bond, I think, is established between the two of them in that quiet little meal they had towards the end of the episode. That's just, I just love the fact that they're all friends. Really, they all form that bond with Noctis in various ways, and the way they form those bonds, it really did shape their friendship with him and with each other, I think, too. Well, back in the present, Noctis and Prompto come back. Did they have like a bomb on them? I don't remember, actually. I think they did, but regardless, they come back. Ignis has come up with a new batch of the pastries he was trying to make for Noctis all these years. Noctis picks one up, bites into it a bit, and the look on Ignis's face, just for a second, if you look closely, Ignis is just waiting in anticipation to finally find out if he did it right this time. He's been trying to make this pastry like time and time again, trying to make it exactly the way that Noctis remembered it. And once again, he's bated breath, just waiting for Noctis to say something. And once again, not quite. Close, but just not quite. Not there yet. Ignis, being who he is, being the serious member of the group, which is surprising considering, like, you'd think Gladiolus would be that kind of the serious member of the group, but Ignis, despite that, a small little setback right there in his aspiring career as a pastry chef, his budding career as a pastry chef, Ignis bites into the little pastry that he's holding, and kind of just, he takes it in stride. Didn't do it this time, but I'll try again next time. It's a friendship that works. It's a friendship that is definitely needed. I'm hoping in the final game, maybe at the end of the game, if it's like a secret ending, please be a secret ending or something like that. Secret ending, credits roll, and they're all sitting around the table or something, eating dinner or lunch or whatever it is. Ignis brings out the pastries one more time, and this time he's got it. It's the right flavor and everything, the right flakiness, everything, right texture. I think that would be the perfect ending for the game if they kind of brought that back. But don't do it in like the middle of the game or something when we're in another city. Do that at the post-credit scene. Make it a bonus ending. Make it like kind of like with Kingdom Hearts. If you want the bonus endings to Kingdom Hearts, you have to like complete the journal, complete all the tournaments, complete all the worlds and everything. Like do something like that. Like do like, I don't know, every side mission in the game or something, every side quest, beat every boss, do whatever, get the ultimate weapon, which apparently exists in the game. Do all that, and then bonus scene. They're eating dinner or lunch, whatever, breakfast, whatever it is. Ignis wheels out the pastries once more, and this time he's got it. the pastry is just right. It's completely perfect, just the way Noctis remembers it all those years ago. That's what I would want in a bonus ending for the game. I like to see that. Uh, well, until then, until I see that, hopefully it's there. It's not gonna be there. I mean, granted, I love these episodes and everything, but it's probably not gonna be there. It'd be cool. At the very least, acknowledge it. You know, I'd appreciate that if you just acknowledge it. Fingers crossed, though, but I doubt it. I'll see. And I'll talk to you guys later.